Gravel bikes have become popular for good reason. They have relaxed geometries, loads of tyre clearance, they're pretty versatile, but they're not all created equal. James Thomas is a bike fitter with over 20 years of experience, and in today's episode, he's going to rank gravel bikes from worst to best.
So the first on my list, and I might be doing this bike a bit of an injustice because technically it's a racing bike, but I'm ranking these based on their suitability for consumers. The Scott Addict gravel bike. First of all, I mean, it looks great. You know, it's nice and narrow, it's got an integrated cockpit, super light, has one of the longest reaches on this list. It's also very low at the front end. Effectively, it is a gravel racing bike, so it renders it not particularly suitable, in my opinion, for most consumers, because it's just going to be really, really long, really, really low, and generally just overall uncomfortable. As is popular in the gravel fraternity now, it also isn't rated for 650B wheel size, so that might limit some people's wheel and tyre options. It does have tyre clearance for up to 45mm though. The Cannondale Topstone. So, continuing the demise into building boring bikes, Cannondale are no longer the innovative brand that they once were. The Topstone, for some reason, has an integrated set of lights on it. Why you need that on a gravel bike is beyond me. But it does have an integrated suspension system in the back end to make it a little bit more compliant. 700C wheels, and there's a whole host of fork options. Like you even do like a lefty suspension fork option. So if you really, really want to use a gravel bike for mountain biking, why I don't know why. Then you can. It's right at the bottom of my list because, frankly, I think it's a bit over-engineered and doesn't really need a light system built into it. The Trek Point. That's me abbreviating the Trek checkpoint. This is, again, towards the bottom end of the list, mostly geometrically because it's relatively long. One of the things to consider here with gravel bike geometry is they tend to translate to having longer reach figures because they're generally designed around a slacker head angle and a shorter stem. So you need to take that into consideration when you're comparing stack and reach figures. That being said, the Trek Point still has very, very long reach figures. Even though it's got an 80mm stem, it's still going to be excessively long. Again, has a kind of built-in suspension system by way of a decoupler. What that tends to translate to is more compliance, but also a more expensive chassis, which is a little bit more difficult to keep serviced and running smoothly. Looks nice. It's also got integrated frame protection on the down tube, just in case you kind of hit a rock or something when you're doddering through rock gardens. Sorry, this is a gravel bike, isn't it? Not a mountain bike. But internal cable routing keeps it looking nice and clean, and also available through Trek's custom Project One scheme. The eagle-eyed of you will realise that this is a bike that's constantly featured on the Cade media channels. The Triban, or is it Triban? Triban Gravel 520 SRAM Apex. The tiny man recently rode this across Malaysia and he really liked it. Basically, aluminium frame, decent stack and reach figures. It's got mountings for all sorts of bags and bits and pieces. Has 700 and 650B compatibility and a whole choice and array of transmission options. I personally wouldn't go with the Apex. If it was my choice, I'd probably go with the 105 bike, which is a little bit more expensive, but I prefer the shifting characteristics of Shimano over the entry-level SRAM group sets. Unlike many of the bikes on this list, these two bikes hover around the £1,000 price point, which generally makes them, obviously much more achievable. And they do offer fantastic value for money. Nice one, Decathlon. The Canyon Grail. Again, one of my favourite direct-to-consumer brands, Canyon, who hail from Germany, offer fantastic value for money, especially given they've got bikes on sale at the moment. The Grail, I mean, I'm looking at a Di2 bike here, which has got 16% off at £4,000, but that comes with a full carbon frame, onboard storage, Shimano GRX Di2, and carbon wheels. It's got an integrated cockpit. Again, the thing you need to be really, really careful about with Canyons, because they're direct to consumer, the sizing structure is not great. I'm 5'10", I would probably ride a small, and as a result that kind of leads to quite a lot of confusion. A medium bike is huge, they are colossally long. Something else, like I mentioned earlier, is that the stack and reach figures are based around comparatively much shorter stems. So it's another thing you need to be very careful about with these because they are a little bit long. The Gravel OG, the open, unbeaten path, usually abbreviated to UP, and also the upper, which is a kind of higher end carbon version. These bikes have fantastic stack and reach figures. They're generally very, very short, which generally gets my vote because it results in either longer stems or just generally a better saddle interaction. It's a sub 1,000 gram frame, and this is basically this kind of started the gravel craze. This is one of the with the drop chainstay design, which allowed you to use both 650B and 700C tire widths, wheel sizes. It's compatible with 1x, 2x mechanical and Di2 transmissions. I actually rode one across the length of Vietnam and I had zero problems with it. It's a fantastic bike. It's lightweight. It kind of does everything it says on the tin. Many people will market it as a sort of a jack of all trades, and it's so you could use it as a road bike. I had a bit of a love-hate relationship with it for a long time because I used it as a winter bike for a little bit, and it just doesn't ride well as a road bike. Off-road, however, the thing completely transforms. They have recently launched a new bike called the Wide, which is coming with wider tire clearances, but interestingly, it's one bike specific. The benefit of the Wide model, though, is that it does actually have even better stack and reach figures, particularly the stack. It's a much taller bike, but also has range the reach down as well. So from a fit standpoint, particularly if you are predisposed to having kind of saddle issues or hand problems, the Wide might be a better option. Again, obviously gives you slightly better tire clearances, but you have to be careful with that one bike specific transmission. One of our best-selling off-the-peg brands, in fact, it's our best-selling off-the-peg brand, is Pinarello. They launched the Gravel a few years ago, the Gravel F, and curiously, so they do two bikes. They do a racing bike, the Gravel, and then they do an endurance bike called the Granger. Curiously, the Gravel is taller and shorter than the Granger is. Maybe Pinarello could tell me why that's the case. Anyway, I've never even seen a Granger in the flesh. We have sold countless Grevels though. Offers fantastic stack and reach figures. Again, it's kind of light, stiff. It comes in a number of different transmission options. You can fix bags to it. It has 650B and 700C compatibility, but the main thing for me is that the stack and reach figures on this bike are superb. Super short, super tall, means that it fits really, really well. Shameless plug to my single favorite bike brand to work with. Festka hail from Prague in the Czech Republic, and they are specialists in full custom carbon construction. They make a bike called the Rover, which funnily enough is our best-selling gravel bike. It uses tube-to-tube carbon construction. Tubes are selected specifically for the rider, then they're then wrapped together with carbon over the top, which again is specific to the rider. This offers the best fit possible, as well as the fact you've got custom paint and custom geometry, so you can tune the way the bike's going to ride, you can tune the compliance properties of it, and you can tune the aesthetic as well. It is very much at the top end of our price spectrum. Having said that, it's still cheaper than a top-end Trek or Specialized. Frame set's coming in at around £4,500 for a frame, fork and headset, but that is for a full custom frame. Same goes for their road bikes as well. Give them a look.